What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boys over here at Three Man Weave. I am your lovely co ZD in the building with CJ. We coming at you guys live, man. It's a Monday, March 9th. And what better way to start it off than talking about hoops, man? Back at it again with Three Man Weave. We got a lot of stuff to chop it up about. We got the Sixth Man of the Year. We got a couple storylines that are going to be interesting that we'll save for later. Got the Thunder Laker analysis. And then we got like 5 games, CJ. I think your team is playing right now. I've had a pretty good week. Obviously, since last week, I think the Lakers have played like 3 games. So decent amount to talk about. We went 2-1 in those games. So we got a couple W's. We're sneaking up on the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. But, bro, how you doing today, man? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, bro. You know, just coming off my birthday weekend, so it was great. You got to spend time with my family and my friends, and just was able to watch some hoops, watch some UFC, and some F1 on the side. Shout out to Stacks, you know what I'm saying? But just been just been enjoying my time, and now it's back to it. Obviously, starting the week off right with shooting the pod with you, of course, and then we got the Thunder playing tonight, so obviously we were tuned into that before we started recording, and just getting ready for our second round of the playoffs for Dynasty. We'll get into that later in the pod as well, but I'm doing great, bro. Got a fresh fade, how to show it off a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So feeling good. Feeling good, bro. And then I just always appreciate your time, and everyone that watches and listens to the pod. I appreciate y'all as well. So I'm doing good, man.
Yeah,
feeling good, looking good.
I feel it. Playoffs are right around the corner. We, like I said, we played 3 times in 4 days. We went 2-1 over that span. I think on March 5th, the Lakers we lost to Denver 113-120. Luka had 27 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. Jackson Hayes, bro, he had probably the game of the season for him, even though it was in a loss. He ended up having like 19 points on 8 of 10 shooting. I told the audience this. I guess I'll talk about it now. Like the Ayton versus Jackson Hayes thing has been interesting. I've spoken about Ayton and how well he did. You'll hear if you go back to other podcasts, like specifically, it's probably 2-3 months now. I was speaking pretty highly of Ayton, but slowly we've gotten the DeAndre Ayton that the NBA knows and loves. And I've spoken about it a couple times on this pod, but I feel like Jackson Hayes has actually had a career year in terms of production and like the expectation for him. I don't think people knew the value that he could bring as a backup big or a potentially starting big. So I did want to highlight that. So shout out to Jackson Hayes. You've been doing a good job, bro. So shout out to you. Like I said, 19 points on 8 of 10 shooting. Roy also balled out. He scored 16 on 6 of 9 shooting. LeBron had a pretty modest game in this one. He only finished with 16 points, and Austin Reeves finished with 9 points. Did want to talk about Austin Reeves over the last, I'd say, couple games. The game versus New York, obviously he did a little bit better, but leading up to this point, the game versus the Nuggets, I think AR was pretty chilly. I think he was shooting sub 45%, sub 35% from deep. So his numbers were way down since returning from his injury. I don't know, bro. We've spoken about that. I think there's going to be a war on value this offseason with Austin Reeves, and it'll be interesting to see what LeBron James and Austin Reeves, like what type of offseason moves happen surrounding that. So we'll get into that a little bit later. I think whenever, the playoffs happen and we see how everything shakes out with the standings, that'll be an interesting talking point to revisit. We also left a ton of points on the board in this matchup, though. From the free throw line, we shot just 10 of 15, so 66% from the line. Unfortunately, the Nuggets, they only beat us by 7 in this matchup. I think we gave up the most points we had given up, I think, in like 5 or 6 games, too. We gave up 120 points. So we were able to, slow down Jokic. Jokic hasn't been performing well over the last month and a half. We've spoken about that too on this pod. We actually did kind of I think our last podcast we put out was talking about how the Nuggets weren't necessarily golden, but they were able to get it done down the stretch. Jokic showing up big. I think in the fourth quarter, they were able to beat us too. And I think when you leave that many points at the line and you end up losing by 7 points only, I think that kind of goes to show you how close we were to winning this game. But we just needed more from LeBron and AR in that matchup, and we weren't able to get it. So, the talk of the town is like, is our big 3 really that threatening? Because since we've been healthy, we haven't been performing at our highest potential. And games like this don't necessarily help the case. Obviously, when Austin Reeves and LeBron James combined for just 25 points, it makes things tough on Luka when he's getting to 30. I think Luka's been awesome over the last couple games, but when he doesn't have help and we don't score enough from the line, that's what you get. But yeah, after losing to the Nuggets on March 6th, we played it back-to-back. We actually played I think we played the Indiana Pacers. We beat the Pacers 128 to 117. Luka went crazy to start this game, bro. I think he scored 22 points in the first quarter. He hit like 5 triples. But it's Luka tends to do this because he plays his most minutes in the first quarter. I think he plays the entire first quarter, which has been the normal rotation for JJ. But the Pacers have been abysmal. I think their defensive net rating is bottom third over the last month. And then on the season, they also are right there with the Kings for, I think they're tied for the most losses in the NBA right now. So their defense isn't great, but seeing Luka cook like that was nice. Like I said, scoring 22 points, that's kind of shows you what he was doing, right? Hitting those 5 threes. We jumped out to a 35-27 lead. I think Luka finished with 44 points on 14 of 25 shooting, 7 of 14 from deep. I think we shot pretty efficiently. We had multiple players above 50%. I didn't want to bring up Luke Kennard in this one. He scored 15 points on 6 of 9 shooting. He went 3 of 5 from deep. Luke Kennard's actually the number 1 3-point shooter in the NBA. I don't know if you knew that, CJ, but he's shooting 50% from deep
on
the
that
season. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like he's came over and he's provided exactly what we expected him to do, be a sniper, and he's shown up and he's played big for us over, down the stretch, trying to complete for the playoffs. Rui also did well in this one. I think he had 13 points on 5 of 8 shooting. So we had a couple key contributing role players above 50%, which just helps the cause. I think, Indiana's defense, like I mentioned a minute or two ago, they're not very good, but this is still a win that matters. I wouldn't call this a quality win, right? I'd rather beat the Nuggets. And again, we keep losing to these teams who are, I would say, competitive, right? They're competing for an NBA championship, and we're still able to beat these teams who I would call tankers or like the cupcakes. No offense to the Pacers fans, but I don't think a 128-117 win is really indicative of where the Lakers want their team to be going into the playoffs. I don't feel like beating the Pacers says much about the type of team that we are, but I did want to highlight some role players in that game. So shout out to Luke Kennard, Rui Hachimura for getting it done. Obviously, when Luka scores 44 points, I think LeBron was a late scratch in this one too, but when Luka scores 44 points, it's like, you got to get the W. It's closer to 50 spots. So shout out Luka, the Don, for that one, but that was a good game on a back-to-back. And then on March 8th, bro, we defeated the New York Knicks. We actually led wire to wire in this game, bro. We scored 34 points in the third quarter. That kind of pushed the lead, I think, out to like 17. The Knicks were able to cut it down to 13 by the end of this game. But I actually, I watched the first half. Luka was getting it busy. His shot making again. I think Luka, even though he's been dropping in the MVP voting, I think him playing against Brunson I saw they had a little moment during the game, which was cool to see. But I think beating the Knicks is a quality win. Leading wire to wire against the Knicks is quality. I think we outshot them as well. Obviously, when you hold a team to under 100 points, it's the defense. I think our defense was amazing in this game. We were able to shut down Brunson and Cat and kind of do our thing. But ultimately, looking at these 3 games holistically, I feel like the Lakers are in a decent spot. Obviously, the best win over this stretch was against the Knicks, but just the playoffs, bro. What are you going to get from DeAndre Ayton? Obviously, the role players like Luke Kennard and Rui Hachimura are going to be really important key pieces for the Lakers down the stretch. And then how is the big 3 going to perform? Those are some of the questions that I'm asking at this point in the season. But yeah, when you get a wire-to-wire win against the New York Knicks, that's a quality win. So shout out to LA, man. We went 2-1 over the stretch. I think that Nuggets game really stung just because we lost it at the line. But Luka's been playing. I think he's averaging like 30, 12, and 11 over the last 3 games. So that 44-point bomb is definitely going to help boost those averages. But the Lakers getting these W's right now it's important, bro. And I like to see it. I can't complain, right? We always say that, but can't complain about these W's.
Yeah, bro. Kind of, going into the Thunder analysis, I told ZD this before we started. I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but we played the Knicks on Wednesday, the day we recorded. So obviously we only ended up playing another game on Saturday. So technically 1 game since the last time we hopped on the pod, but we weren't able to talk about that game on Wednesday. So I'll do a kind of like a brief recap of that. it was a great game to start. I think it was Chet's game. I think you have him on your dynasty, so you saw kind of what he was able to do that day. I think he ended up dropping 27, 28, something like that. And he ended up he hit like 5 threes in the first half.
Quarter.
Yeah, first quarter. Yeah. So shout out to that. I think that was like tied for his career high or something like that. So I know we brought it up that day. That I think it was that day actually. Perk was saying that he needs to step up. He needs to score 20, whatever. But obviously
he spoke about it a little bit.
We talked about it.
It was like going on. Yeah, it was like going on
while we were recording. Yeah. So, but just what he's been able to do, bro. I think he's getting a lot comfortable with his 3-point shot. It looks a lot more smoother. It doesn't look like as much of a hitch in his jumper. And when he's going, bro, it's he's kind of like our do-it-all center. He could defend at the rim, and if he's able to knock down the threes, it just opens up the court for us, and that has been something I've been harping on this whole season. But yeah, it was really him that started it off. But shout out to the Knicks, bro. Like you said, that they're a quality team. I would consider this a quality win for us as well, especially in the Garden. We know how that is. The environment, all the rowdy fans. You have celebs sitting courtside. They ended up, that third quarter, they ended up blitzing us, and I think that is something these past 2 games I've been noticing. Third quarter, obviously Shea will play like half of the quarter, maybe like 4 or 5 minutes into the quarter, and then he ends up sitting for like the back end of it to go into the fourth, so he could play for as long as we need him to. And I think we kind of see where that kind of hinders our offense, and it was really our defense. We ended up giving 40 points in that quarter, and that's how much points they scored in the first half alone. So obviously that kind of brought the game a lot closer. It was kind of neck and neck going into the fourth, and Shea was able to knock down the big 3 to kind of give us a cushion. It wasn't a game winner, but it was a go-ahead bucket to give us like a 5-point lead with like a minute left. And I think from that point on, we didn't score the whole rest of the game. So that was essentially our game winner. And we're just playing good defense. They ended up getting really good looks to end that game too. I think it was Brunson in the corner. He ends up missing it, and then kicks out to OG, and he ends up missing it. So not the prettiest game, and I feel like I've been saying that a lot lately, but I mean, like Z said earlier, man, a win is a win at this point of the season, and when 100%. The way that the Western Conference is looking, the Spurs are right on our tails, so any win we could get at this point is super valuable, especially like these high intense moments. It just gets us ready for the playoffs, So shout out to the boys. We held them to, I believe it was 100 points. So it was 103 to 100. I think that's something that we've been saying all year. Best defensive team in the league. I kind of expect that. It's just, what are we going to get on the offensive end? But going into the next game, man, we ended up playing on March 7th. It was 104 to 97 against the Golden State Warriors. After controlling the game within the first 2 quarters and then surviving a late second half push from Golden State, OKC jumped out with momentum immediately. And in the first quarter, we defeated them 34 to 28. Behind 7 points from Isaiah Joe, who's been incredible. I bring him up so much, just what he's able to do, stretch the floor out. And then even when, he's not hitting his shots, or, obviously the defenders have to respect him, so they're going to kind of jump out at him. He's able to kind of make the quick decisions, whether that be kicking it out or driving to the mid-range, doing a floater or a jump shot. He's been incredible at that all season. So shout out to Isaiah Joe. OKC then built a double-digit lead going into halftime behind a strong and steady scoring from Shea, 12 points and 4 assists. Shea finished the game with 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, repeatedly getting to the line where he went 14 for 15, which I feel like that's the stigma of him, right? But if we're being honest, look at his game logs. He hasn't been getting to the line. This is probably the most free throws he shot in a long time. He's around like 6 to 10 maybe, but he got to the free throw line 15 times this game. So being aggressive, getting to the rim, and getting those foul calls on him. So that's always a good free points. We shot efficiently overall, which I feel like that's something I've been harping on us a lot. We've actually been shooting the 3 ball very well these past McCain for the past 2-3 weeks. So yeah, shout out Jared McCain, like ZD just said, he's been killing it. But we got scoring burst from Isaiah Joe, who had 18 points. Kenrich Williams, who I feel like I don't talk about him a lot. He ended up getting 13 points. Just kind of like the glue guy for us. Like I wouldn't say he's on like the caliber of a Caruso or Marcus Smart for your Lakers,
exactly.
but he's that type of mold. He can play 12, 13 minutes in a game. He's going to go out there, play really good defense. And, the fact that he's able to knock down, some 3-pointers or get to the mid range, hit a couple, get layups or whatever it may be. He just kind of is, he always is ready to get his number called. So I feel like that's something that gets overlooked in the league nowadays because, he's not averaging 15 points coming off the bench. But, he's that type of player that, he could defend pretty much, 1 through 4. He's a decent 3-point shooter, and he just makes the right play at all times. So shout out to Kenny Hustle. I feel like I don't bring him up enough, but he's definitely one of the guys that I'm glad he's on my team, man. While also winning the glass, thanks to Jalen Williams, 14 rebounds, who I feel like has been having an incredible year. With a lot of the injuries we've been having, he's been getting a lot of, starter minutes at times, and honestly, really just second unit minutes where he's kind of the guy that is running that offense whenever, AJ Mitchell or Isaiah Joe, he's been starting as well. So he's been doing incredible, bro. Just his passing ability. I felt like, I don't know if I talked about that last game, but just he's able, in the top of the key, just able to make the behind the back passes or like kind of misdirect people and do no look passes. I feel like that type of ability just from your big is incredible, especially when he's coming off your bench, So shout out to Jay Will. He's been balling out lately as well. But Golden State, man, they responded in the third quarter, outscoring OKC 29-19. But in the fourth quarter, SGA hit a step back 3 with 42.5 seconds left on Draymond Green to give us a 102-97 lead. And then SGA secured the dub for the Thunder with a pair of late free throws as well. So, this marks our 50th win of the season, becoming the first team in the NBA this season to achieve that mark. And, I think that's it's a season highlight for sure, bro. I think it's just kind of capping off how it's been for us. I think this was a great test. Obviously, Warriors without Curry, we talked about that in a previous pod, but they're another situation where it got a little sticky towards the end of the game, but you gave the ball to, the best player on the court, and he was able to make some plays. And obviously our defense holding them to 97 points. Like I said earlier, I feel like that's kind of expected for a Thunder fan at this point. And that's the luxury of being a Thunder fan. It's just, what are you going to get on the offensive side? And, granted, like I said, it got to a pretty sticky situation, but we've been able to fight through those and, be able to scrape away with this dub, bro. So, shout out to the Thunder, man. We're playing tonight against the Nuggets, and it was looking like it was a good one. And, hopefully we'll be able to watch the recap of that game. But that one was looking like it was going to be probably the game of the night.
100%. And they're just so good at winning ugly. It's something the Lakers got to get better at doing. And I think we've been in these clutch situations where we've lost to the Suns, Nuggets, Magic, 3 straight clutch games in a row, and the Thunder have won 3 straight clutch games in a row. So it's just that flip flop that I think you got to look for that mentality, especially at this point in the season. Just win ugly, win at all costs. That's something that Mark Daigneault preaches, and the Thunder are no stranger to that. But yeah, let's go into the games today, bro. Let's talk about it. I feel like we have some good ones. Honestly, talk about your Nuggets and Thunder, because I think we got a couple games at 6:30, and then we'll go back. But yeah, you can talk about them for a second.
Yeah, I'll talk about them real quick. So, we had the 6:30 tip-off tonight. It was Nuggets versus Thunder. The Thunder are missing Jalen Williams and Isaiah Hartenstein, and also Ben Carlson. Caruso and Holmgren are listed as a game-time decision. They both didn't go, so I think we missed five players. That was obviously a huge thing coming into this game, as always. But, the Nuggets are missing Peyton Watson and Jamal Murray is listed as a game time decision, and he went. So
You
they're
went.
just
Yeah.
missing Peyton Watson. Some storylines for this game. This is the third matchup of the year between the Thunder and the Nuggets this season. Over the last 15 games, the Thunder are 11-4, and the Nuggets are 6-9. Over that same span, the Nuggets ranked 15th in the NBA in overall net rating with a +1, and the Thunder rank 8th in the NBA in overall net rating with a +8. The Thunder have defeated the Nuggets by an average win margin of 8 points this season. So, kind of going into it, obviously I was able to watch the first half, so take that out, just kind of basing it off of what I just said. Obviously, I know Chet's actually injured this game as well. I think he had an illness. No iHeart. So those are our two bigs, and obviously we're going against Jokic, right? So I was assuming Jokic was going to go off this game, or Aaron Gordon. He's back now. I think this is his second game back. He ended up popping off in the first quarter, scored 19 points. So
he did.
Just beginning of the game, not having our bigs, Jalen Williams, J-Will, has been doing incredible. I just brought him up earlier, but he's our only big really this game. So I obviously thought heading into this that would be a problem. But I mean, like I tell the audience, bro, I'll never go against the Thunder. It's always any game I see on the games of the night, I'm rock with the Thunder. But I definitely think not having our bigs is going to be a huge factor, because obviously Jokic, and the way that this game started, it wasn't Jokic, so that was very surprising for me. It was the Tim Hardaway Jr. and Aaron Gordon show to start the game off. So hopefully we'll see when this game ends, but I got the Thunder, man. Obviously, Shea's on the court, but just with the lineup, man, I think it was Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, or Shea, Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, J. Will, and then like Wiggins, I believe. So obviously a pretty small lineup. Wiggins, yeah. So it's tough, when you don't have your two bigs and you're going against one of the best players in the league, if not the best player in the league. It's always going to be a matchup nightmare. But with the amount of wins that we've been able to get, the way we've been getting them as well, and we're home, I'm rocking with the Thunder, man. I think it's going to be a very close game, and from what I'm looking at, it still is a very close game. So it's going to be down to the wire, and maybe a game winner or a game sealer shot from us. But I think it's going to be that type of game. So I'm excited to see what the recap of this, and that was kind of my thoughts, prior to watching the game. But yeah, this one's going to be game of the night for sure.
Yeah. And like the Nuggets, I'll speak to them a little bit. 6-9 over the last 15. I think they've struggled, especially in the clutch, which is interesting because they have Jokic and Murray, who are top 5 in clutch points this season. Jamal Murray has been a game time decision for the last 2 weeks, but has put up 40 points, 30 points. I think he's having the best stretch of the season right now, post All-Star break. We'll see, man. I don't know how Jokic is performing, but I got to rock with the Thunder as well. They've shown that they can win ugly. We just got done talking about them for like 10 minutes. So I feel like they'll be able to show up, bro. They'll be able to win whether or not Jokic makes an impact or not. I think Jalen Williams can show up and still guard well. And I feel like Caruso's in, right?
No, Caruso's out too.
Oh, no. Okay, well then you got Jared McCain.
AJ Mitchell.
Yeah.
I think it's
the normal
his return.
Guys. Okay, AJ Mitchell. Okay. Well, yeah, Jared McCain, I think, has been awesome as well. So I think they're going to get some bench scoring, which the Nuggets don't always have. So I got to rock with the Thunder, bro. I feel like they're going to do good. But let's go to the Eastern Conference. This is the 6 p.m. matchup. The 76ers versus Cavaliers. The 76ers are missing Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Paul George. VJ Edgecombe was listed as a game time decision. I don't know if he ended up going. I don't think he did.
I don't think he did, yeah.
Yeah, I think VJ's been hurt for a little bit. The Cavs are actually have nobody out, but Max Strus, Proctor, and then Jared Allen are listed as game time decisions. So hopefully they all ended up going. I think Jared Allen is out.
Yeah, I think he is.
Maybe Max Strus too. We'll see. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
These games are earlier. But storylines for this matchup. This is the fourth matchup between the 76ers and Cavs this season. The 76ers lead the season series 3-0, which is interesting. They've beaten the Cavs 3 straight times this year. Over the last 10 games, the 76ers ranked 23rd in the NBA in overall net rating with a -7.9. Over that same span, the 76ers are also 4-6, which is Embiid, Paul George, and now Tyrese Maxey just recently went down with that injury. They're looking like they're going to be stumbling into the playoffs, and I hate to say that, but they've had a pretty good run up until this point. But we'll see what Kelly Oubre can do and company. I think it's Jabari Walker, a couple other people. But yeah, they have enough bench scoring to figure that out. The Cavs over the last 10 games ranked 9th in the NBA in overall net rating with a plus 5.5. And the Cavs over that same span have gone 6-4. So post James Harden trade, they've actually obviously been above 500. I got to rock with the Cavaliers since they are a little bit healthy. They got Mobley and Mitchell and Harden. I just think that matchup is too much for the Sixers, who are hurt. And no Tyrese Maxey and Embiid, who are their top scorers this season. It's kind of hard to win a game whenever, your two top guys that are scoring the most points for your team are out. So I got to rock with the Cavs.
Yeah, I'm rocking with the Cavs as well. Obviously, I think if Tyrese Maxey was in, it would be a lot different. But since he's missing, I think the next 2 games, or I think he was playing this game and he ended up getting injured, I believe, right? So
he finished the game last
time, and then
but
that's what it was. Yeah. So obviously, if he was in, it would be a lot different. But I think, like you said, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, Evan Mobley has been playing, even if Jarrett Allen was into it, would probably be a very lopsided. But just what Harden has been able to do with this roster, even with Donovan Mitchell out. Plus, he has I think we were talking about it, right? He messed up his wrist or something. He's still been playing through that, so he's been able to figure it out. They still got a lot of time as well, and they've been doing really well. I think I got to rock with the Cavs in this game as well.
100%, bro, and. Yeah, like you're saying, James Harden fighting through the injury just shows you how important, winning is right now for the Cavs. I think they're trying to make a push for the championship, let alone the playoffs. So, yeah, I got to rock with the Cavs.
Yes, sir. Going into another 6:30 tip-off that we had tonight, it's the Grizzlies versus the Nets. The Grizzlies are missing Santi Aldama. Ty Jerome, Cedric Howard, and Scottie Pippen Jr. are listed as a game-time decision. The Nets are missing Michael Porter Jr. and Jaeger Denham. I think he is going to be out for the season. Yeah.
Fasciitis.
Yeah.
He's been awesome.
Yeah.
That's a home run pick. That is an A+ pick by the Nets. I am sorry for that because he's been great. So yeah, CJ, that is right. He's done.
Yeah, I just saw that too. I was looking on, just looking through the games tonight. It was a story that had just popped up. So I was like, damn, that's crazy.
He's been awesome.
Yeah, he's been really good. And then Ben Serif is listed as a game time decision as well. Some storylines for this game. This is the second matchup of the season between the Nets and the Grizzlies. The Nets defeated the Grizzlies in the last game 107-105 behind 30 points from MPJ. The Grizzlies ranked 12th in the NBA in offensive rating over their last 10 games, scoring 115.2 points per 100. The Nets rank 29th in the NBA in offensive rating over that same span, scoring just 104.3 points per 100. Oh man, this is one of those games where it's like, obviously, MPJ, that has a lot to do with it. I feel like he's been averaging 20, 27, 26 points per game this season. I think that's going to be a huge loss for them. And then obviously Igor Denham, like we said earlier, out for the season now. So that was kind of their bright spot. They still have a lot of young players. Danny Wolf, I know you have him on your dynasty. Nick Claxton has been having a pretty good year for the most part.
Yeah.
I just this is one of those games.
Zaire Williams,
yeah. They have some pieces, but I think just MPJ is such a huge hole in the scoring side that it's going to be hard for them to figure. Yeah. And then in Jaeger as well. So I think I'm rocking with the Grizzlies in this one. Just off of that MPJ injury alone, I think if he was in, it would probably be a lot closer for me and it'd probably be more of a toss-up. But since he's missing some time, I think I got to rock with the Grizzlies, man. I know they have had injuries all year. But I just think they have a little bit more depth to kind of compete with the Knicks in this game. So I got the Grizzlies in this one.
Yeah, and like you said, I think MPJ was the reason they beat the Pistons. He can swing a game with his 3-point shot making. So you're exactly right. I got to go with the Grizz. Next matchup, we'll skip over the Thunder one because CJ talked about that first. But 9 p.m., the Warriors versus Jazz. The Warriors are missing Moses Moody, Al Horford, and Kristaps Porzingis. Seth Curry is listed as a game-time decision for this game. The Jazz have listed Lauri Markkanen, Jackson Jr., Walker Kessler, Vince Williams Jr., and Yusuf Nurkic is out. A lot of those guys are OFS. I think Jackson Jr., Kessler, Vince Williams Jr., and Yusuf Nurkic are all out for the season. So Utah Jazz fans, got to get healthy. Storylines for this game, though. This is the fourth matchup of the season between the Jazz and the Warriors. The Warriors are leading the season series 3-0. The Warriors have also defeated Utah by an average win margin of 14 points in those games. Over their last 5 games, the Warriors and the Jazz both ranked bottom third in the NBA net rating. The Warriors ranked 21st with a minus 4.5, and Utah ranks 18th with a minus 3.6. Over that same span, Utah is 1-4, and the Warriors are 2-3. I think it's interesting because the Jazz have had chances to win games. You've talked about it, but Keontae George has played extremely well. And Ace Bailey, you know, I think they have a couple pieces on that team that are very good. Sensaball's had a couple blow-up games. You know, we got a Williams brother who shows up every once in a while. But I still got to rock with the Warriors in this matchup. I think Steph is back. So, you know, he might be on a minutes restriction. But when Steph's in the game, I think it just gives the Warriors a light at the end of the tunnel that may or may not exist. So I'm gonna go with the Warriors. I feel like they're gonna bomb threes in this game. And they were able to compete with the Thunder the other day as well. That's another kind of highlight thing. I think that would be qualified there for them as like a good loss, right? No Curry, barely losing to the Thunder, who are a championship team. So I got to rock with the Warriors, man. I feel like they'll be able to outdo the Jazz in this matchup. And the Jazz just have so many injuries, bro. And we've talked about that repeatedly. But that's been the theme for them over the last month. So that's why we'll keep talking about it.
I'm right with you, bro. I think just like you said, just how the Warriors were competing against the Thunder kind of showed me the type of team that they have. You know, obviously never giving up. When you have Draymond, they're going to be pretty good on the defensive side. It's just, you know, if the Jazz are going to be able to keep up with the offense. And like you said, they've had moments to where they could win games. It's just they are not being able to close the games out. And obviously I think that's just, you know, due to youth, not having your best players on the court. So I'm rocking with the Warriors as well. But I think this might be a close matchup. Honestly, yeah. I think this might be one of those kind of sleeper game of the nights, you know, like you see it and you don't think it's going to be a game. You look at the box score and it's like, oh, whoa, the Warriors barely beat the Jazz.
136.
Right,
Curry
type of game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I mean, we've been talking about the Jazz a decent amount, and I think they're one of the teams that, you know, whenever they get their roster full healthy, I think we've seen the type of player that Keontae George is becoming this season. And I think that's going to be, you know, hopefully how he ends up playing for the rest of his career. But whenever you get Triple J, Lowry, Walker Kessler, that team's going to be, you know, one of the potential play-in type team. You know, they have that type of roster to compete. So, you know, not saying they're going to get blown out, but I think the Warriors end up getting this dub just due to them being able to close out games. And that's something the Jazz lack right now. But shout out to, you know, that. I think that's going to be a decent game for the night. And the last game of the night, man, we got the Knicks versus Clippers tipping off at 9 p.m. Central Time. The Knicks are missing Miles McBride. Mitchell Robinson is listed as a game time decision as well. The Clippers are missing John Collins, Bradley Beal, and Niederhauser. Some storylines for this game. This is the second matchup of the season between the Clippers and the Knicks. The Knicks defeated the Clippers on January 7th, 123-111. Over the last 10 games, the Knicks rank 4th in the NBA in defensive rating, allowing just 106.1 points per 100. Over that same time, the Clippers ranked 16th in the NBA in defensive rating, allowing 113 points per 100. Over the last 15 games, the Knicks ranked 5th in the NBA in overall net rating with a plus 7.5, and the Clippers ranked 17th with a plus 0.7. Man, this is we got some good games tonight, man. I think this is going to be a good one. Honestly,
that's another banger.
Yeah, that's another banger. Monday night hoops. You know, we were talking about it in the even when NFL is going on. You know, I think these Monday night hoops are greater than Monday night football. You know what I'm saying? But the way that this game looks, bro, the way the Knicks have been playing, you know, obviously losing to both of our teams within the past week. heading into the Intuit Dome. Kawhi
They're
having
sluggish.
his career year. Yeah,
EG.
the Knicks are looking a little, sluggish, like ZD just said. Obviously, looking a lot better on the defensive side of the ball, but offensively, it's kind of a by committee type of game or type
Yeah,
of game plan for them because it's not looking like Jalen Brunson had a decent game against the Lake Show the other night, but just who is going to be the guy to step up because I think Kawhi is going to get to it. Obviously, they have great perimeter defenders, the Knicks with Anunoby and Bridges, but I think the way he's been playing this year, it's going to be it's going. Or how are we going to stop Kawhi, or how are we going to prevent him from doing what he's been doing all season? I think that's a tall task, and with Darius
you're right.
Garland kind of in the lineup as well, getting his footing. I think that was I think you brought it up a couple podcasts ago. I think that's a great pickup for the Clippers, especially a young point guard to kind of get the helm of the team whenever whatever happens with Kawhi. Man, I think I'm rocking with the Clips, bro. I just don't. The
Mm.
Knicks have been playing very, like you said, sluggish. Obviously, defensively they're great, but I think the Clippers as well. They have moments where Chris Dunn is doing really good on defense. Derek Jones Jr. is kind of not turning the season around, but having a good couple weeks in this
That latter half.
these latter half of the season, and just what, like I said, bro, I'm gonna keep bringing them up. Just what Kawhi has been able to do. So
Oh,
I'm rocking with
dude.
the Clips. They did blow a 25-point lead to the Spurs the other
They
night,
did.
but I think that's going to be in the back of their mind. And the way that the Knicks have been playing, super super sloppy, super sluggish. I think I'm rocking with the Clippers in this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. Like, I think Brunson and Kawhi will probably get doubled. So we'll see. Like, I
Mm.
think with, like you said, you brought it up with the Knicks. Unless OG and Cat give you big time games, McCall Bridges, somebody else can step up. It's tough when Brunson's getting doubled to swing it out, and there's nobody that can really get it going. On
Mm.
the other hand, though, I think what makes the Clippers so dangerous, and I think the Clippers are going to win this matchup, is because DG is just a floor general. You can swing it to him. If Kawhi gets doubled, I think Darius Garland can find the open guy, and he's really, honestly, he prefers that. Going downhill with
Mhm.
2-on-1 situations, he's going to get lob threats all the time. And when they do figure out their full roster, like you said, whatever that looks like in a couple of years, I think he'll be at the helm of the ship, like you brought up. So shout out to the Clips, man. Obviously I'm a Lakers fan, but I think LA has had one of the best turnarounds you'll ever see in an
Mhm.
NBA season. This may
100%.
never happen again, but just to be flirting with 500 from where they were at, obviously that pick is going to the Thunder, so they can't lose. Yeah, it just changes. It changes things. It changes mentalities, and like you said, losing in that fashion to the Spurs, it's got to put a fire under your ass. So,
Mhm.
yeah, shout out the Clips, man. I think the Clips will get this W. But CJ, you ready to talk about our storylines of the week? You want to get into Detroit? How they been a little dizzy?
Yeah, bro. Let's get into it, man.
Let's do it, man.
All right.
Yeah, no, you want to go through? You want to read it?
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Okay, go ahead.
All
Go
right.
do it.
So
Throw on music.
first storyline of the week, boys. We got the Detroit Pistons. Man, are they getting a little dizzy right now? The Pistons are 0-4 in their last 4 games and look a little dizzy. The Pistons over that span ranked 19th in the NBA in offense rating, scoring just 112 points per 100 over that time frame. Their worst loss during this losing streak came at the hands of the Brooklyn Nets, where Detroit lost 105 to 107 in that game, or 105 to 107. In that game, Detroit jumped out strong, winning the first half 62 to 46. The Nets then dominated the second half, winning the fourth quarter 34 to 21. MPJ finished the game with 30 points, and Zaire Williams scored a hyper efficient 23 points, going 5 for 8 from 3 and 8 from 8 from the line. The Pistons shot 36 of 38 or 36 of 85 from the field, only good for 42%, and also lost a rebounding battle 45 to 37 versus Brooklyn. Unfortunately for Detroit, over their last 4 games, they've also struggled defensively, which hasn't been the case all season.
It has
Detroit, over
not.
that span, ranks 25th in the NBA in defensive rating, allowing 119.7 points per 100. It's only a small sample size, but the Pistons are only 2.5 games up on Boston for the number 1 seed, as their record now sits at 45-18 after this 4-game losing streak. Will Detroit be able to rebound and finish as the number 1 seed, Z?
Um, So the Celtics, this is it could be a storyline in itself, but I am not a Celtics fan. But Tatum is back in the lineup,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know if I can say yes to that anymore. I personally didn't think Jason Tatum was coming back.
Neither did I.
So I don't know if I can be like, yeah, y'all are going to be the number 1 seed. You're only up 2.5 games on Boston, and you guys will be fine in the playoffs, right? I think they'll still get the 2 seed, right? Hopefully they don't drop too many games. But when you lose to the Brooklyn Nets in that fashion, going 36 of 85 from the floor, like you said, they've shot sub 45% over their last 5 games during this stretch. It's not a recipe for success. I can't say yes confidently to that. I think it's more about Boston. Honestly, I was thinking about putting that in there, but I didn't want to make it about Boston. Obviously, it's a Detroit segment, but I think it says more about Boston than it says about Detroit. Getting Jason Tatum back, having Jaylen Brown. Did you know Peyton Pritchard is the best isolation scorer in the NBA this season?
I did not, actually.
Well, you got that as well. You got Hugo Gonzalez. You got Nemias Queta. I mean, the Celtics have had a great season, man. I hate to say that, I really do, but spectacular season from them. And now the fact that they've brought back Jason Tatum, I think it does spook the Pistons a little bit. You know, Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham are kind of the engines that make them go. And over the last couple games, Cade's got shut down. They've played the Spurs twice. They've had a couple tough games. They've played a couple tough opponents. But I'd argue, I always say this with the Lakers, you want to play teams like that. You want to see if you're a quality team. Why would you want to play scrub teams? Like the Pistons don't want to play bum teams. They want to play teams like the Spurs and the Rockets, and they lost to those teams, right? So I know Coach Bickerstaff. You know, we just talked about him on Coach of the Year, so it doesn't line up too well if you're if you're watching this episode. However, I think he's got some work to do. I think the work is cut out for him, and like you said, he did a good job of explaining. But I think they're ranking 25th in defensive rating over these last 4 games, allowing 120 points per 100 possessions. Like, that's not the Pistons. The Pistons are a top 3 defensive team in the NBA this season overall. So to shortly answer your question, I don't know. I don't think so. And I think it has more to do with the Celtics than it does with the Pistons. But to speak to the Pistons a little bit, I think they've got to clean up a lot of their offensive issues first. They need to find somebody else who can get it going outside of Duren and Cunningham. And then defensively, I think that'll shape itself. I don't really think they'll lose that part of their identity. That's not something – that's an effort thing. I've said that before, but, like, that'll come back. I feel like they're just tired. You know, it's the latter half of the season, and guys' legs are out from under them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep that number 1 seed in the East, but I think, you know, obviously that matters. You want to be able to get the easiest way to the finals, quote unquote. But I think it just, like you said, it kind of just says more about Boston and what they've been able to do this season without Tatum. Now you got Tatum back. Now you're kind of expecting, you know, them to be a lot better team than what they were. And I think
with
Detroit, 100%. And I think with Detroit, you know, kind of going back to them, because this is their segment. I think it's just really, like you said, just offensively. Like, where are we going to get production from people besides Cade and Duren? That's really what it boils down to. And like defensively, like you said, I'm not too worried about that. That's something. It's a long season. I think a lot of people I realize that, but you know, they don't really understand how much, you know, minutes these guys are getting per game, and that obviously will fall off. But defense is all effort, like ZD said, and I think it's something that the Pistons, that's their identity. That's where they thrive on, and it's just figuring out who is going to be able to contribute on the offensive side of the ball besides Cade and Duren.
Right.
And I think that's what it really boils down to, and that's probably what I'm more worried about from them than their defense. Obviously not the greatest within these last 4 games, but I think they're going to be able to turn that around come playoff time. But the number 1 seed, it's going to be tough for them, bro. I mean, like you said, their schedule has been tough, but you want to play against those type of teams at this point of the year to see what you're really made of, and, you know, kind of testing your limits, you know. But going on to our next story of the week, man, we got the – oh, no, my fault. You got it. We are going on to the next storyline of the week. We're staying in the East. I got you. Miami, you know, as they're finding their mojo. Feel like we haven't spoken about Miami. I think you were excited to chop it up about them, but
Yeah, we haven't spoken about the Spoelstra boys in a while. Still number one in pace, but yeah, Miami started to heat up over their last 10 games. They've gone 8-2 over that span, and they've defeated the Pistons and the Rockets during that stretch, who we just talked about, right? Some of the
Mm-hmm.
best teams in the NBA in the moment. The Heat are also on a 5-game winning streak during this 8-2 stretch. During this 5-game winning streak, the Heat ranked second in the NBA in offensive rating, scoring 123.3 points per 100 possessions. I think they defeated the Pistons like 123-110.
Yeah.
So not only did they get it done on the offensive side of the ball, but they also got it done on the defensive side of the ball. Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo over the last 10 games, I think, are averaging 50 points combined as a duo. So they're balling, bro. I think
Mm-hmm.
Norm Powell's been in and out of the lineup, but he's been great when he's been in there. Jaquez is literally Jaime Jaquez Jr. has the most points off the bench this season. I don't think he'll win Sixth Man of the Year just because the Heat are the 7th seed in the East, but he's had an amazing year. You know, Jovic has played great. Davion Mitchell has played great. They've got spot performances from a bunch of different guys. Dare I forget Andrew Wiggins, who, you know, we seem to forget, but he has had a great season this year as well. I think Miami deserves a lot of credit right now.
Mm-hmm.
They also rank 11th in the NBA in defensive rating, allowing just 108 points per 100 over that span. The Heat lead the entire NBA in pace, and in the last game, they defeated Detroit, who is currently first in the East. In that matchup versus Detroit, Hero and Bam combined for 49 points, scoring 25 and 24 points respectively. The Heat also shot 47% from the field in that game, 43 of 93, and forced 12 turnovers while getting 9 thefts versus the Pistons and scoring 16 points off of those turnovers. After this 8-2 stretch, Miami now ranks 7th in the Eastern Conference with a 36-29 record on the season. Will the Heat be able to make some noise in the playoffs? I think so, bro. And I know you think so too. You've said it a lot on this pod, so I'll say it for you. But the Heat are the team that you don't want to wake up. You don't want to play in the Eastern Conference. They have shown that they're capable of getting to the finals from essentially out of nowhere. Anytime that you think they're out, they're really not. They're play at development systems, top 5 in the league. They know who they're building around. They got rid of Jimmy Butler and the cancer in that locker room. And it seems to me like over the last 10 games, they've played extremely well. I haven't watched a ton of Heat games this season. I doubt you have as well. But every time I've seen it, especially against the Lakers, I love how fast they play. They've completely revamped their offense. I've spoke about some of their players, but just the tactics behind their offense is why these players are doing well. And I think that bodes to the coaching staff. So I think they'll make some noise in the East. And if you had to put, Miami versus Boston, I don't think Boston wants to play Miami. It's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
perfect matchup for Boston. And I think Miami can kind of take advantage of their size, what Bam Adebayo is going to be able to do. They're going to be able to run. And if they're hitting threes, I think anything can happen. I think they showed that in that game versus Detroit. So yeah, I think Miami's going to make some noise. I feel like it's our job to talk about them, man, because they've been hooping. We haven't talked about Miami much. So, yeah, shout out to Bam and Hero and those guys. I know Wiggins has had a decent season. Davion Mitchell, Jovic, Jaquez, all those dudes, man, have played pretty good. And I think it's just a testament to Eric Spoelstra and him changing the offense. So, shout out to Miami, man.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Miami
Z
and
said,
Charlotte, bro. Miami and Charlotte, like, you just
mm-hmm.
don't want to see those two teams right now in the East.
Yeah, no, yeah. Z said it perfectly, and I've said it multiple times on this podcast, and I'll continue to say it until I'm proven otherwise. But your Spoelstra, what the Heat are able to do every single season, kind of being in the play-in and then making a little run, getting past the first round, competing in the semifinals of the conference playoffs and stuff. It's just incredible. I think it gets overlooked a lot because what they were able to do in the bubble and then even after the bubble when they went against the Nuggets in the finals, just we didn't expect them to do that. And honestly, that's still like the same type of vibe I'm getting from them this year. Obviously playing different tactics, different game plan, but I think it kind of helps them out. If they're able, they've been playing like this all year. We've been saying they're the fastest pace. When we have talked about the Heat, we've been saying how fast a pace they're playing at, and that's the type of game plan you need to have in this era of basketball.
For real.
And they're perfecting it in a sense. The fact they've been doing it all season, they haven't really switched up on their tactics. It goes to show, bro, just that the type of players that they have. They always get like the blue collar guys, undrafted type of players, or players that got, drafted late in an NBA draft, or, teams didn't want them, so they pick them up. Like, they get those type of players that have like a chip on their shoulder, and it just buys into the mentality, the Heat mentality, So they're always
Heat
going to
mentality.
be a problem in the Eastern Conference, no matter what seed they are in the playoffs. But yeah, no, I think they can, bro. They have the roster. I know Harrow has missed a lot of time this year, but now he's coming back. He's looking like, he's kind of getting his footing back. And if he can do that with what Bam has been doing and just the way that they've been playing, I think that it plays in the type of, the game plan that Tyler Harrow kind of thrives on. Is like, you're just kind of getting the open shot, swing three, and running in transition. And they've been playing really good defense for the most part. So I think, the Heat are always going to be problems in the Eastern Conference. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think they're definitely going to make some noise, and they're one of those teams that you don't want to see them in the playoffs at this point, man. I'm not going to lie. And even if they don't win the first round or make it out past the first round, they're going to be competing. And I think that's a lot of times, teams don't want that for a first round matchup, especially with the caliber of players that they got. So
feisty, yeah. And there's an old parable of a farmer. There's a farmer who lost a horse, and the villagers were like, "Oh, you're so unlucky." He was like, "Maybe." The horse comes back with 5 horses. The villagers are like, "Oh, you're so lucky." He goes, "Maybe." Right? His son tries to ride one of the wild horses that horse came back with. Falls off, breaks his leg. The villagers say, "Oh, you're so unlucky." He goes, "Maybe." A guy goes to his house. He asks his son to go to war. The farmer says, "Oh man, my son's leg is broken." So it's all about timing. That's why bringing up Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, Jason Tatum, like all these guys coming back and getting hot at the right time, that matters just as much as the season that you've had. Because if you get into the playoffs, you might just get hot at the right time. And bro, I want to bring this up to you. Do you remember those jerseys that Miami had, the all white with like the white letter? It was all the white out, the white hot jerseys.
Yep.
Man, I wish they bring those back. God damn it. Man,
they need clean, to. Those are clean, bro. I remember those. Yep.
Yeah, dude. I just wanted to say those two things, man. It's all about timing. I think the Heat are starting to find their footing, like you brought up with Hero, even though he's missed games. No matter how many games you've missed, if you get hot at the right time, I think that trumps everything.
That's all that matters, bro, because it's all about, street, like runs, right? We always say basketball is a game about runs. That's how it is for the whole NBA season. It's how, if you're on a little hot streak at the right time, that's all that matters. And that's exactly what the Heat were able to do when they made it to the finals. Everyone was playing good defense, hitting threes, people couldn't miss, so yeah, no, they're Heat, bro. I mean, we talk about it a lot, but yeah, they're not a team that, I'm glad I'm in the Western Conference, and if we see them, it's in the finals. You know what I mean? But if they get to that point, we might talk about that. But heading into our last storyline of the week, man, it's about the Sacramento Kings, your hometown, Z. Sac Town. What is going on in Sac Town? The Kings season has unfortunately been a disaster that has culminated to the worst record in the NBA at 15-50. Over the last 15 games, the Kings are just 3-12 and ranked 29th in NBA in defense rating, allowing 121 points per 100. On the season, it's not much of a different story, as the Kings ranked 28th in the NBA in defense rating for the year. Luckily for Sacramento, they own their first-round pick in this year's upcoming draft, which is their saving grace for the season. The Kings and the Pacers currently hold the best lottery odds for getting the number 1 pick, but that doesn't bode well for the Kings. The last few seasons, the NBA has had multiple teams jump up during the lottery drawing to draft players they otherwise wouldn't have been able to. Injuries to Keegan Murray earlier this season, Domantas Sabonis out for the season, and Zach LaVine, who's also out for the season, have derailed the Kings' plan to compete for a playoff spot in the Western Conference this year. With questions about the beam front office brewing, will the Kings be able to find a resurgence next season?
Oh, dude, and yeah, that's the ultimate question. I think they've missed on multiple picks, going back to Marvin Bagley. The Tyrese Halliburton, De'Aaron Fox snafu is interesting, because those are two potentially all NBA guards that walked through that facility and it didn't amount to anything. You've now got Keegan Murray and I saw him in person because I went to that Spurs game and he looked okay. He actually looked fairly healthy, the best that I've seen Keegan Murray look. But CJ, if we're being honest, honest with each other, the biggest caveat that you brought up is the fact that multiple teams have jumped up during the last couple drafts. People forget, the Spurs. Let's talk about the damn Mavs. They should not have got Cooper Flag, right?
Nope, not at all.
So and the Pistons should have got Wemby. Mm-hmm. Imagine if the Pistons had Cade and Wemby, right? So just because you have the worst record in the NBA now, I would argue the last few seasons, math could obviously work in your favor, but that doesn't guarantee you a top 3 pick even. So if the Kings are hoping to get a Darren Peterson or AJ DiBonsta, who I just learned recently, that's how you say it, on the BYU website, DiBonsta. There's no sta. I don't know why we kept saying it. It's the SA. The T is before the SA. DiBonsta. AJ DiBonsta. So sorry.
Sorry.
I don't know why. I don't know why we kept saying that. But anyways, to get a player of that caliber, you got to be in the top 3. So if the Kings, teams like the Pacers, the Jazz, if they don't get in the top 3, then you won't be able to get one of those guys. But this year, the big caveat is the draft class is so deep, right?
So deep,
they can still get a Kingston Flemings, a Wilson, a Boozer. So I think they can, and I think they will. If they don't make any offseason moves, which, CJ, you brought that up at the end. I don't think DeRozan's going anywhere, but I think they might trade a Levine or Sabonis. I think DeRozan's been awesome. I think Westbrook will come back next year. I think the Kings can get in a play-in spot at least. I don't know if that qualifies as a resurgence, but technically, because they're the worst team in the NBA at this moment. So I'd argue if they can get back to the playoffs next year, utilizing some of the pieces they have, I think it's a win. But yeah, trading, Keon Ellis, getting DeAndre Hunter, who's out for the season too. We know he'll come back next year a little bit stronger, but some of the trades have been questionable. Some of the picks have been questionable. Hopefully Sacramento, your front office can figure it out. I'm from Sac Town. I would love to be a side Kings fan, but that'll have to wait, and we'll have to wait for Light the Beam to light the beam.
Yeah. It's I feel like this is the one, like you just said it, right? This is the one draft class to where even if you get unlucky, you don't get a top 3 pick. Luckily, this draft class is deep enough to where you could probably still get a player that can help you go into the right direction with your franchise. But that being said, it's I feel like the Kings, bro, they just have had terrible luck with their draft picks, or just the decisions that they made on draft day are usually pretty questionable. So we will see. I don't know. I mean, obviously, besides De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton, I'm looking at their last, first round picks: Keegan Murray, right? Davion Mitchell, Tyrese, like I said, Marvin Bagley, and then De'Aaron Fox. That's the last 5 years. So, decent hits, but for the most part in their history, it's been very questionable. But that being said, this draft class is so good, I don't think that's going to be the issue. It's just going to be, what is their lineup going to look like? Because they have Sabonis, who's been in and out the lineup, hopefully coming into this next season for the Kings and also for my Dynasty team. He has a healthy season.
He will.
Levine being out, DeRozan, Russ, you have a lot of older guys on this roster. So whoever you draft this year can potentially be a first day starter, or
it's a clean slate. So they have an opportunity to start.
They have opportunities to be able to make some noise. Obviously, like you said, are they going to be able to have a resurgence? Yes, because they're obviously the worst team in the league, and I don't think, hopefully, you can't get any worse than that. But it's times are tough right now in Sacramento, man. Obviously, like we said, the Light the Beam era, with the first year they did it was incredible. Made it to the playoffs for the first time in 20 years, whatever it was. Yeah. Going against the Warriors, obviously losing that series, but just seeing the fans there, bro, they deserve it. They deserve to have a competing team, and team that can, make the play in at least. So hopefully that's the direction that they're going to be going in. But, with this draft class, I think they can make some noise, but I don't think it's going to, that one player isn't going to be the difference. They're going to have to make some other moves, like you said, trading someone and seeing what you could get for them. And you might not be getting as much as you want, but that's just more assets for the future that you can have in your treasure chest.
And the change your life factor of the NBA, it's there's, I would say, CJ, probably 5 guys in that next draft that can change your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
That like all stars. If you didn't like their war, right, wins above replacement. If you add them to your team, like you'll immediately get 5 to 10 extra wins or whatever the case may be. Not 10, but between that number,
right?
I think there are guys that they'll be able to find. There's a lot of value adds at the back end of the draft, so we'll just have to see. But Sac Town, that's your segment. I know we haven't spoken about you guys in a little while, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel. But CJ, let's talk about Sixth Man of the Year. Got to start with some honorable mentions. You asked me, probably Jaquez Jr., Peyton Pritchard. Pritchard has started 48 games, so really just over the last month, he's in the honorable mentions for me personally. But I think Jaquez Jr. is probably the odd man out of this list. Playing for the Heat, we had a Heat segment, but he, like I said, is leading the NBA in bench scoring. The Heat are playing at the fastest pace. They're also a 7 seed, and he's kind of had, after having a down season last year, he's had a bounce back year this year, and I think he's found a role, kind of being that 6-man guy and playing 28 to 30 minutes if they need it, and he has the ability to score 30. So I'd probably take Jaquez Jr. What about you?
Yeah, I would agree, bro. Like you said, just being
Yeah.
If it wasn't for AJ Mitchell missing so much time, I would obviously have him on this list. But since he missed, a month, it's kind of hard to put him on the list. I don't think he's going to meet the game requirements. But yeah, I'd probably say him. Jaquez, he's been incredible. Getting triple doubles coming off the bench and just being able to be like Miami's like Swiss Army knife. Being able to do a little bit of everything, and especially coming off the year that he had last year, because he had a pretty good rookie campaign, and then last year had kind of fell off, and then this year, kind of turned around a little bit. So I agree. I like Jaime on there.
Perfect. Well, let's get into the list, man. We'll start it at number 3. For folks who don't know, we've kind of been going through all of these. I think we've done, most improved, rookie of the year, clutch player of the year, DPOY. We're doing 6-man now. We're doing coach. We did coach of the year. I think we got MVP.
Yeah.
And I think that'll kind of take it home. But we've been compiling a list of 3 candidates that we feel is the field at this midway point. And we'll start at number 3. And it's none other than Reed Sheppard. Reed Sheppard is third on our list for 6-man of the year. Sheppard is averaging 13.6 points per game, 2.7 rebounds per game, and 3.3 assists per game on 43% shooting from the field and 40% shooting from deep on 7 attempts per game. So he's been cooking, bro. I think in the Rising Stars game, he had a couple triples. I think him and VJ were going at it a little bit, but overall, the expectation for him coming into this season, when Fred VanVleet went down, I think they were trying to start him. They ended up rocking with Amen Thompson. He's came in and he's played that role of 6-man like perfectly. And I feel like Reed Sheppard, to me, since I've had him on my Dynasty team, he's just had, obviously the best year of his career, rookie season and kind of in the G League, so it doesn't really count. But this is definitely a blow-up year for Sheppard so far. Sheppard has also played in all 63 games this season for the Rockets, which is a big caveat because a lot of guys just aren't available nowadays. So seeing that is pretty cool. He's a reliable scorer off the bench for Houston for sure. Like I mentioned, he's third on this list because of the expectation placed on him after Fred VanVleet went down. After spending some time in the G League, Sheppard has solidified himself as a reliable 4th option for the Rockets behind Durant, Şengün, Thompson, Sheppard, right? So he's right there. I think we're in Fred VanVleet comes back. Sorry, I think he'll kind of hover on that 5th option, but I think he'll still give you 13, 14, 15 points a game. He's instant offense. He's kind of their microwave, and shooting 40% from 3 on 7 attempts is just
for a rookie too is crazy.
Yeah, bro.
For anybody, for any player is crazy.
I think Reed's a sophomore, but yeah.
Yeah, sophomore.
Yeah. I was like, he ain't a rookie, but yeah, he just, for what he was doing last year in the G League to now. Yeah, bro. Like, I think this is exactly what they expected of him. So shout out to Reed Sheppard. Just having a great sophomore year. So shout out to Reed.
Yeah. No, yeah, you said it. I feel like he is like a prototypical 6-man. You know what I mean? Like someone that
poor man's Constantinople.
Yeah. It just what he's
Literally.
been able to do, bro. Just like you said, expectations. Obviously, Van Vliet
Yeah.
being out, you kind of were wanting to see if Reed could get those starter minutes. He wasn't really able to. Was in the G League, came back, and now he's performing at a pretty high, a very high level. You know what I mean? I know he did very well for you this past week, and in Dynasty, we were able to get your live reaction. So just seeing what he's been able to kind of shape his game into, because I don't know if Rockets fans expected this from him, but he was, what was he, a top 4 pick, 5 pick?
Yep. Top 5. Yep.
So obviously with that
Kentucky.
expectation, you're kind of expecting that, and then you saw what he did rookie year wasn't the greatest, and now usually it's a sophomore slump that guys have. He's been kind of able to shoot that out the way and be able to help the Rockets compete, and that's exactly what they're missing, someone else that could come off the bench and score, because that's something they've been lacking all year. So shout out to Reed Shepherd, bro. It's been incredible to see his improvement this season and just what he's been able to do for the Rockets in the absence of their starter Fred VanVleet. So shout out to Reed at number 3. Going to our number 2 spot, man. We got someone from San Antonio Spurs. They've been balling out. Shout out to Keldon Johnson's number 2 on our list. Johnson is second on our list this season for 6th man of the year. He's having a resurgence off of the bench for the Spurs, as he's averaging 13 points per game and 5.5 rebounds per game on 54 shooting from the field. His best since his rookie season. Johnson is also shooting 38% from deep this year. His best mark since his sophomore season. Johnson is averaging the most bench points on a team that ranks 7th in the NBA in bench scoring per game. The Spurs are also right behind the Thunder, as the San Antonio ranks 2nd in the West with a 47-17 record. Yeah, man, I think
KJ.
Just Keldon Johnson, bro. Just I feel like what he's been on the Spurs for a while now. He's kind of like a veteran in a sense, especially for this young roster. Just what he's been able to do. Obviously, prior to Wemby, prior to Castle and Harper, he was, kind of one of the bright spots that the Spurs had, and he was, getting 20 points, not a game, but, he could get 20, 30 points a game. And the fact that he kind of is able to take a step back, realizing that they have a talented rosters with young guys, he's able to, take this 6-man role, which I think a lot of guys, they say they want to do it, but more than likely they don't want to do it. I think it's a role that kind of players are realizing how valuable it is, and you can be a contributor to a winning team. And the fact that he has kind of been able to step into that role for this young Spurs roster just goes to show the type of player he is, and the fact that he's shooting 50% from the field and 38% from deep. It just kind of goes to show the type of player that he has been this all year and what he's been able to provide for them, man. I think he's obviously one of the best 6-man, but just for the team, he's obviously one of their better players as well. Just from top to bottom, they have a pretty stacked roster, but he's still able to contribute to winning games for them, and I think that's what they're gonna need come playoffs, and especially right now in the season, like we said earlier, guys are gonna get tired, so he's gonna be able to kind of provide a little bit of juice coming off the bench, and he's been doing that all season. I know.
Yep.
When he went against us, he always kind of doesn't torch us, but he definitely gives us problems. Leaving him wide open in the corner, knocking down threes, playing really good defense as well. I think he's kind of the mode of the 6-man that we're starting to see now, kind of like a 3-and-D coming off the bench, essentially. Someone that, may not be able to get the starter minutes every game, but can get a solid, 18 to 24 minutes a game and kind of be able to contribute to winning basketball. And I think that's where Keldon Johnson thrives. And so that's why he's number 2 on our list.
Yeah, veteran presence. I think he's also doing a good job with Dylan Harper. He's just being a voice in the locker room, and Keldon Johnson's the first one on the floor. He's just really revamped his game. This is a guy who can average 23 points a night. He did that a few years ago on like 46% shooting. So he has the capability to score, but he knows he's taking that back seat because Stephon Castle, Harper, Fox, Wemby, they have that core there. So I think Keldon Johnson has found his role and like his niche, right? I didn't know if you saw Chris Dunn said something to Austin Rivers the other day. He talked about, the important things to be in the NBA and just being like a guy who is willing to sacrifice, obviously all these guys are 5 stars. They're the best at their high school, they're best at their college. But once you get to the NBA, you have to play your role and you have to be willing to do it as if you were a Hall of Famer. And I think Keldon Johnson is learning that. And he might get a ring doing this because at the end of the day, a lot of people, like you said, CJ, they can't make that sacrifice. But I think being top 10 in bench scoring, the Spurs, that is, and him being the head of the snake, you got to put him at second on the list. And he's just had a resurgence type of year. But man, let's move on to number one. The number one guy on this list so far through the midway point is none other than Naz Reid of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Naz Reid is 3-Man Weave's Sixth Man of the Year to this point. Reid is averaging about 14 points per game, 6.4 rebounds per game, and 3 assists per game on 47% shooting from 2 and 38% from beyond the arc. Reid only trails Jaime Jaquez Jr. for the most points off the bench this season with 853. Naz is also averaging a steal and a block per game, making him a key defensive asset for the Minnesota Timberwolves this year. Naz, big jelly. He just keeps doing it. I feel like Naz, for where the Timberwolves are at, what he's done, and obviously Peyton Pritchard won last year, Naz won the year before. I think the voters are going to favor him in this case. I feel like he's been the most consistent scorer out of anybody we have available for a team that's also winning. A lot of people don't know this, but Sixth Man of the Year, your team also has to be good. You can't be scoring 25 points off the bench for a team that's, one of the worst 5 teams in the league. People know that's kind of empty scoring. So I think Naz in this case, with Minnesota being top 4 in the West, that's got to matter for something. Like I mentioned just now, although Reid has already won the award, I just think the voters will favor him this year because he's been the most offensively productive bench scorer that plays for a great team. The T-Wolves are 3rd in the West currently with the 40-27 record so far. And we think for that reason, Naz Reid will win another Sixth Man of the Year award. Like I brought up 2 years ago, Naz won this award already, but I think he's already found his role, bro. And he found that years ago, which is why they paid him the bag. But he's been the most offensively productive guy off the bench this season, in my opinion. Also, the Timberwolves have played extremely well. I think they're top 5 in bench scoring, too, which is an interesting thing I didn't know. But that makes sense when you think about it. Bones Highland, right, has some blow-up games every once in a while. They also have some other guys that come off the bench and can contribute when it matters, like whenever Terrence Shannon is in. When he's not hurt, he can score. So I didn't think about that, but that makes sense. And obviously Naz Reid, right? So when you got 3, 4, 5 guys that can score double-digit points, that makes sense. I think Naz Reid is the head of the snake for one of the best bench scoring teams in the league. So got to go with Naz Reid. I think Naz has had the best season so far in terms of scoring and just being offensively productive. So yeah, I got to go with Naz. Also the 7 boards, 1 block, 1 steal per game. The defensive end is getting cleaned up too. Yeah, I think that's a good winner, man. And I feel like the voters will also agree with me, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm right there with you, bro. I keep bringing up Dynasty and stuff like that, but he was one of the players that I picked off the waiver and just what he's been able to do for me on my Dynasty team, but just for the Timberwolves as well. Just being a consistent scorer off the bench, being able to, obviously he got the bag. Was it last year or 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, coming off the Sixth Man of the Year award, and then obviously he's our number one this year. Kind of just goes to show, like we said, just knowing your role on a team, and you could still get paid really good money for being a sixth man or being a glue guy, defensive guy, and he's able to contribute on both sides of the ball, and I think that's something the sixth man it usually isn't like that. I feel like it's kind of shifting towards that now, just because that's kind of how the league's going. You kind of got to be a 3-and-D type player, but he can also play make. He gets boards, and like you said, he's getting a block and a steal a game. I think just overall, just being on a winning team and being second behind Jaime, but just what he's been able to do all season, bro, coming off the bench and just kind of knowing his role on that roster, and he's still, a huge contributor. There's sometimes he could drop 30 on your head, and you don't expect it because you're worried about Ant, Julius Randle, Jaden McDaniels. They have a very good roster. So the fact that he's the head of the snake for that second unit, and he gets some starter minutes at times during this year. So he's just been consistent all year and being on one of the best teams in the league, you gotta reward those type of guys. So shout out to Nasri, man. I'll be dope for him to see him get another one for sure.
100%. But CJ, we are at. I told the viewers I'd break it to them. Drum roll, please. I took the L, unfortunately, guys. I'm so sorry. Okay, lost 859 to 873. The reason being is because I had a hurt team. You know, Cooper Flagg missed all week last week. BJ Edgecombe missed all week this week. Not much I can really do, but I put up a hell of a fight. I don't know, man. I'm thankful to be in this spot. I think I ended up losing by 16 points between me and my brother. And, my brother was he's battling CJ for the 1 seed pretty much all year. CJ ended up getting it. So my brother had to play me. But I think if I was playing any other team in the league, besides Bobby, maybe CJ, I think I would have won. So I think that kind of goes to show you where my team is relative to the timeline we're supposed to be on. And yeah, I just came up a little short. You know, De'Aaron Fox had 20 points in the first week, and then Cooper Flagg was zeros. Really hurts me. But to know I've only lost by 16 points, meaning if I had another high level player in, I would have won. I think that just shows you how good my team is, man, and just timing. You know, the injuries, it sucks. There's not really much I can do about that because there's really no players on the waiver wire at this point that can replace a Cooper Flagg or a Chet Holmgren or whoever, or VJ Edgecombe. But I grabbed Colin Sexton last night. He ended up getting me like 38 fantasy points. So just having it come down to the wire, just competing, that was fun. And like I said, I'm going for broke. But now I'm going for the 6th pick, man. I just need a top 6 pick. And I feel like if I can get top 8 in this draft specifically, it's really good. If you're outside of top 8, it starts to get a little thin. Not really. I think there's still a lot of value, but I'm not going to disclose who I want to grab at the 6th spot. Luckily, the person I told is going to be behind me. So that's good. But yes, I think, I got to make a draft plan now, and my off season has started. And yeah, there's not going to be any more dynasty talk from me. My season is over, and I gave it my all. Though I went for broke. I think Colin Sexton. Shout out to you, bro, because really, you're almost putting up 40 fantasy points off a waiver wire pickup at like 8 p.m. So just kind of goes to show you the value that's available right now. So I appreciate it. And yeah, only 16 points between me and my brother. 875 to my 859. So
yeah, man, it's tough. It sucks to see it. I know that your expectations, when you started were, tanking, and you ended up winning, bro. So I think it just goes to show that, I told you this as well. At least you weren't betting on winning this season and then you barely make the playoffs. You were a team that, you drafted young players who still have a lot of potential, for this foreseeable future, and you still made the playoffs. So I think that goes to show just the trades that you made. Obviously, I think you probably made 2 of the biggest trades, if not, some of the only trades in this league. Yeah. But just what you were able to do. You're seeing you're looking into the future, right? You weren't too worried about this season. Obviously, you made it to the playoffs, so that's when you're gonna go for broke. But just where you position yourself very well, bro. It means that huge trade that you made with your brother, and then you end up going against your brother, and you could have potentially even got his pick again. So it was interesting. It's interesting to see how your mentality kind of shifted, and just how the cards were dealt. You went on a hot streak. I think you won like 5 games in a row, right? So It just goes to show, bro, like obviously you're good at this. You watch hoops, you keep up with it, you have the good players. It's just, injuries, bro. I think that's, kind of going into my matchup right now. We're in the 2nd round of the playoffs, so I'm going against ZD's brother Tristan right now. I'm in the same boat as you, man. I wouldn't say I'm not gonna use that in this excuse because I've been winning all season. But I have had to deal with injuries a lot. Obviously Shea missed time. Franz, OG has missed time. Advia has missed time. But luckily I had these past 2 weeks for everyone to get healthy. Shea came back. I'm looking at it right now. He dropped 85 points for me. So that's a lock because, we don't get those type of performances fantasy score-wise for him usually. So that's a great way to start off the week. But I think it's just gonna boil down to, I'm going to have to rely on everyone else to kind of do good. That being OG, Julius Randle has kind of cooled off a little bit, but he could still get you 40 to 50 points. It's kind of what he's around that
Yeah,
range.
anything above 40.
Anything above 40. And then
Yeah.
obviously Steph Castle has been doing incredible. So that's, I have two really good guards. I think I'm just lacking right now in my power forward, small forward position, like the forward spot. But I think I got decent, utility players. Nickeil Alexander Walker has been doing really good. And then I've had to, obviously move people in and out of my lineup. AJ Mitchell was injured for me as well. He had an incredible game, 24 points. I didn't start him. So we'll see what that looks like, because I picked up Neat Clifford off of waivers because I was going through so many injuries, and he's been doing pretty well. So I didn't expect AJ Mitchell to pop off, but he'll probably end up taking his spot. But sure. Derek Queen has been, pretty good, pretty consistent for the most part.
Consistent.
Obviously he's kind of been going through a little bit of a decline as of late, just because the Pelicans are trying to win games, and they're not just playing the rookies all the time like they were earlier in the season. But I like my chances, bro. I think I've been saying that all season. I think I got a good enough roster to put up a lot of points, but I'm in that spot to where, like how you were, if my guys get injured, or if I don't,
it's cooked. Yeah,
it's cooked, bro. Just because, like you said, your brother Tristan has a great team, bro. Jokic, Rudy Bear, obviously defensive. Reynaud, that's a great pickup. MPJ, who luckily he's out, and then he picked up Ty Jerome. But it's really Jokic, right? Jokic, MPJ. Yeah, that's a KD as well. He has him on his bench for some reason, but yeah, so he has a lot. He picked up Naz Reid. That was a player I had to drop for my team to try to fill up in some spots, but I like my chances, bro. I don't want to speak too soon on things like how you were. We'll see this time next week what it's looking like for the, obviously playoffs are 2 weeks for us, but I like my chances, especially with that 85-point game from Shea. I think that kind of starts the playoffs off right, I think it gets a little bit, or at least for me, when I'm going against someone and they're locking in points, their players are getting 70, 60 points in the first game of the week, it kind of, gets me a little anxious. I'm like, damn, I gotta start locking in some points just to kind of put some numbers on the board. And I think hopefully that's what I kind of do for Tristan for this first game. And I'm excited, bro. My first season doing fantasy basketball, and the fact that this is the 3-man weave dynasty. It's I got to put on for the boys, bro. I gotta at least make it to the championship, bro. That's my goal. Obviously, Bobby's been killing everyone in the league. He only tied against your brother, so he's been the only person to really compete with him all season. And thankfully I've been able to get 2 dubs against your brother. So I think if we were doing the analysis right, if this was the NBA season, that would probably be a topic of a conversation. You know what I mean? But
right.
Yeah, no, I'm
2-0, right.
2-0 head-to-head record.
Average win margin
of right, exactly. So I don't know, man. I like my odds. I don't want to, get too boastful and all this stuff so early on, because obviously it's 2 weeks. But with Shea getting that 85 bomb, that's already a great start, because I'm usually getting 50 points for him, like 40 to 50 points, like average. So the fact that he kind of doubled that, just it's a good start for me. So I'll give y'all an update on it next week to see what this matchup looks like. But he has Jokic, who can easily put up 100 points any game, and obviously that'll be the deciding factor in this matchup. It's gonna be it's gonna be all my players versus Jokic, essentially. Obviously, he has a great roster. He was the 3rd seed in our league, so he's able to put up points. But hopefully me getting to this hot start early will kind of not have him panic, but like have him be in a situation where he's like, okay, like I might have to lock that in just to kind of keep up. So we'll see, man. I don't want to speak too soon, but yeah, second round matchup between me and Tristan right now. So I'll keep y'all boys updated, man. But this is I'm excited.
Yeah, brother. Well, I don't have anything else to add. Do you?
No, sir. Yeah, no, nothing from this side.
Hey, man, that's going to do it for the boys over here at 3-Man Weave. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate you guys for checking us out. If you're new here, thank you for staying all the way to the end. We'll catch you guys next week. We got some business to handle on Wednesday. So we appreciate you guys. We're going to talk about MVP next time. So, yeah, catch you guys, man. Peace. It's 3-Man. 3-Man.